Stuka Joe here. We're about to start turn 7 and we have to make a correction. During the last video, turn 6, during the events phase, we placed the B-type events in the randomizer cup, and those events, as per the rules, they are placed in the cup in turn 7, and for some reason I thought they were placed in the cup after the Grand National Assembly event was pulled, and that's not correct. And we drew this CHIT, the Turkish Weapons Purchase event, and that was not supposed to be in the cup, and as a result of that, the Turks received 2 more replacement points. So to correct that, we are going to eliminate 2 of the units that the Turks constructed with those 2 resource points, and one is going to be the supply column that is in Ankara, and the other is going to be the reduced 12th Infantry Division that is to the northwest of Konya. And that's how we correct that mistake, and we will treat as if the CHIT drawn was a no event. Now, as to the other event that we drew is the French withdrawal. This is an event that cannot happen before in turn 7, and we withdrew French units from the French zone and 1 unit from the international zone because the Turks really cannot take advantage of the withdrawal of the French because they are really in a bad state in the West. We will leave that event, and I'm sure my French subscribers have no problem in their countrymen returning to France 1 season before. So we'll leave that event, but the other event that was drawn, the Turkish Weapons Purchase, which was a Phase B event, we will return it to the cup. So who knows, maybe it'll be drawn during turn 7. And with those corrections, we continue. And these, of course, are the pitfalls of late night solo wargaming. So, on to the intro. It is the fall of 1921. The Greeks and the Russians have launched all-out attacks against the Turks in the West. The Russians are at the gates of Ankara, and there's not much in front of the Greeks. In the Armenian front, it seems that the Armenians' luck is beginning to run out. They are practically surrounded by Turks and Bolsheviks. The Turkish Grand National Assembly's prestige level continues to be low. This will have an impact on the number of replacement points and on the performance of the troops in attack and defense. The Turks cannot continue to fall back in the West. Turks need to make a stand, and time is running out. In the first event, Turkish Nationalist Weapons purchase. And the Turks receive 2 additional replacement points in this turn. Next event, Turkish USSR Treaty. The Turkish Nationalists receive 2 additional replacement points per turn thereafter from here onwards, and this is treated as a no event if the Imperialist forces control one of the following cities: Trabzon, which they don't control; Erzurum, which they also do not control; or Sarıkamış, which the Imperialists, namely the Armenians, do control. So this event is a no effect, and this is a serious blow to the hopes of the Turks of receiving much needed replacement points at this time. So the Turks now receive replacement points. Because the assembly's prestige is low, they receive 3. And only in this turn they receive 2 additional replacement points because of the Turkish Nationalist weapons purchase event, for a total of 5 replacement points. And the Turks have to plug some gaps. A unit has to be placed in Zonguldak. And the Turks are obligated now to place 1 or more irregular units, which can be deployed anywhere in Turkey, to seal the line with the Greeks there, and perhaps another unit in Konya. The Turks cannot afford to keep on losing cities. The Turks purchased the reduced 1st Infantry Division with a defense of 4 and 4 irregular units. And the Turks deploy the 1st Infantry Division at Zonguldak. And facing the Greeks in the south, the Turks place 2 irregular units, place another irregular unit, together with the one between Zonguldak and Ankara. Finally, the Turks place their last irregular unit behind their 41st Infantry Division in case the 2 irregular units in the south are eliminated by subversion or combat. Now it's the Bolsheviks' turn. They will not be building any units of their own because they will take too long to reach the Armenian front. They will use the 2 replacement points to subvert Armenian irregular units. They will attempt to subvert the Armenian irregulars. The hex to the northwest of Kars on a 1, these Armenian troops will rebel and be controlled by the Nationalist. On a 2 through 5, they're eliminated, and on a 6, there's no effect. We roll 1d6. And the roll is a 1. So these Armenian irregulars are now turncoats, and they will be controlled by the Nationalists. And they cannot be subverted twice in the same turn. The Bolsheviks still have 1 more replacement point, and they will attempt to subvert the irregulars that are occupying Van. And we roll 1d6. The roll is a 3. They are eliminated. Start with the replacement points for Azerbaijan. They have 1 replacement point, but no units of their own to build, so the point will be used to attempt to subvert 1 Turkish irregular unit. And that's the top unit in the stack, in the hex to the southwest of Zonguldak. And we roll 1d6. The roll is a 4, so the unit is eliminated. Now it's the Armenians' turn to build units or subvert irregulars. They have 5 replacement points, 4 plus 1 because Erzurum is in Turkish hands. Van is ungarrisoned, but if either Yerevan or Kars are occupied by revolutionary forces, the Armenians surrender. Here we see the Armenian units that are eligible to be rebuilt. And we see that most are irregular units. There's 1 infantry brigade and 1 cavalry brigade and 2 supply columns. So the Armenians will spend 4 replacement points to rebuild an infantry brigade and 3 irregular units, and their remaining replacement point will be used to try to subvert a Turkish irregular unit, and that unit will be the one remaining between Zonguldak and Ankara. We roll 1d6, and the roll is a 1, and that irregular unit becomes a rebel irregular unit controlled now by the Imperialists. The irregular units can only be placed in or adjacent to Erzurum, which is under Turkish control, so that's not eligible, Sarıkamış, or Van. So an irregular unit is placed in Van, and 2 irregular units will be placed adjacent to Sarıkamış, that is, in Kars. And the regular infantry brigade has to be placed in or adjacent to Yerevan. So, it'll be Yerevan. Now the Greeks have 4 replacement points. And the Greeks use 1 replacement point try to subvert the irregulars in hex 1806. We roll 1d6, and the roll is a 1. The irregulars rebel, will be controlled by the Imperialists. They spend a 2nd replacement point to try to subvert the remaining Turkish irregular units in the south. We roll 1d6, and it's another 1, and they also rebel and will be controlled by the Imperialists. The Greeks use their 2 remaining replacement points to bring 2 supply columns. And these arrive at Smyrna. The White Russian army receives no replacement points. Now we go to the Imperialist movement and combat phases. First to move and possibly fight, the Armenians. The Armenians have to hold on to Kars and Yerevan. Yerevan can only be attacked for now from 1 hex, and Kars can be attacked from 3 hexes. Will concentrate forces in Kars. Their 1st Reserve Infantry Division moves into the city. 1 of their irregular units in Kars moves to Sarıkamış. The other irregular unit moves to Yerevan. The Armenian 2nd Reserve Infantry Division also moves into Kars. Taking a look at the situation in the south, the Armenians have to give up Van in order to close the gap in the lines. The Armenians holding Van move to take a position southwest of Yerevan. And this other irregular unit to the east of Van takes a position southeast of Yerevan. That's the end of the Armenians' movement phase. They will not be launching any attacks. They will brace for impact. The Azaris cannot move out of their national territory, so they are just sitting and watching. and do nothing else. Still, the Greeks and the White Russians have to move, and the White Russians always go after the Greeks, but there's another nationality controlled by the Imperialists. These are the Turkish rebels, and now the Imperialists decide to move them, in part to get them out of the way. And the two irregulars that turned to imperialist control moved to take a position to the southeast of a Turkish irregular unit. They will not launch any attacks. The other Turkish irregular rebel unit to the north of Ankara now makes its move. And it is heading east towards Samsun. Now it's the Greeks' turn to move and fight. Greeks advanced their remaining units and supply convoys. On to the Greek attacks. The Greeks begin by attacking the Turkish irregulars in Hex 1907, and the irregulars will also have to face the air support marker. The Turks will not use their air support marker, so first we see if the irregulars can retreat. So we roll 1d6. The roll is a 2 modified to a 3, and the irregulars successfully retreat within the hex, which cancels the attack. And now to the second attack. 4 Greek divisions attack the Turkish 41st Infantry Division. 10 to 3, 3 to 1. Because of the rough terrain, it is reduced to 2 to 1. But because of a low Grand National Assembly prestige, it is increased to 3 to 1 once again. And the Greeks use their supply wagon to increase it to 4 to 1, which ensures the destruction of the defenders, unless the Turks want to use their air support marker to bring the odds back to 3 to 1. The Turks decline to do so. They want to save it for the Russians, who may attack Ankara this turn. The Greeks will bring their air support marker. Let's take a look at the effect of the Greek air support marker. We roll 1d6 and add 1. The roll is a 2 modified to a 3, a recon result. So any adjacent Greek unit which is not adjacent to an enemy unit can participate in the attack. So the cavalry brigade that just occupied Konya joins the attack. And with the cavalry brigade, the Greeks have 12 combat factors, and that increases the odds to a final 4 to 1 attack, and we roll 1d6. The result is a 5. The Greeks lose no steps and the Turks 3. So the Turks are eliminated, and the Greeks advance into the vacated hex. It's the end of the Greek attacks. Now it's Wrangel's White Russian army that moves and attacks. There's a gap in the Turkish lines. Russians have finished moving, and now the Russians make an all-out attack on Ankara. The Russians have a total of 9 combat factors in attack, and the Turks 3, so we start at 3-1. But because of the rough terrain, the odds are decreased to 2-1, and because of the city, they're decreased to 1-1. But because of the low Grand National Assembly prestige level, the odds are a final 2-1. Here we see the possible results at 2-1. Anything but a 1 will cause the fall of Ankara. But wait, the Turks still have one trick up their sleeve, and they bring their air support unit. Now we have to roll for the effect of the air support unit. And because it's unopposed, we add 1 to the die roll. A 2 modified to a 3, a recon that has no effect on defense. So the attack on Ankara is a 2-1 attack, no further modification, and we only have to roll the die. So we roll 1d6. The roll is a 2. The attackers lose 2 steps, but the defenders lose 1 step. And that means that the 57th Turkish Division is eliminated. Now the Russians have to eliminate 2 of their units. They eliminate 1 cavalry division and an infantry division. However, Ankara has fallen to the Russians, and this is not good. The fall of Ankara triggers a possible sudden death situation. At the very moment that an Imperialist unit enters Ankara, we have to roll 1d6. On a 4, 5, or 6, the game ends immediately with an Imperialist victory. But on a die roll of 1, 2, or 3, the Turkish Grand National Assembly escapes to another city to continue the fight. So, will this be the end of the war? Or will the fight continue? We roll 1d6. Imperialists have won. That's the end of the war for Turkish liberation. The war ends on turn 7, the fall of 1921, with the Russians capturing Ankara. And the hostilities cease immediately, also in the Armenian front. So the game ends right here. And this is the end of the war for Turkish liberation. I wasn't expecting the game to end so soon. And let's talk a little bit about the game. Some conflict that I knew very little of. It's a very interesting situation. You have practically a multi-front war happening right after World War I. You have the interplay of the Turks with the Bolsheviks who are fighting their civil war. And in this game, you had the very improbable occurrence of Pyotr Wrangel's White Russian army, which is escaping from the Russian Civil War, stopping in Constantinople, and ending up joining the imperialist forces and actually capturing Ankara and finishing the Turks. I really like the mechanic around the Grand National Assembly and the prestige points. It really makes the player think twice about launching attacks that are not fruitful, because every time you lose a unit or a city, it's going to have an impact on the performance of the Turkish nationalist as a whole. And in this particular game, The level started at 4 and quickly dropped to 3 with a profound effect of only having 3 replacement points each turn. And then all your attacks are penalized with a 1 column shift to the left, and all defenses are also penalized with a column shift to the right, which is very powerful indeed. But I really like the mechanic of projecting more like the staying power and the national will of the Turks through this Grand National Assembly prestige track. One thing I had trouble putting my head around really was these irregular units, which, as I stated before, look so puny that you tend to underestimate them. On the one hand, they are very easy to eliminate through the subversion process. I'm not sure if that should be probably tweaked a bit, because it's a matter of rolling a die, and if you get a 2 through 5, it's going to be eliminated, and only on a 1, if it is Armenian or Turkish, it's going to flip to the other side. So it's very easy to eliminate these units just by spending a replacement point. Then we had like the Asaris spending a replacement point, which you can use to try to subvert Turkish irregular forces anywhere on the map, including here on the West Front, which is kind of weird. So I think these units shouldn't be so easy to eliminate through this subversion process. Maybe tone it down a bit. Also, these units have a lot of staying power because of this retreat before combat table, which I also think, and this is based only on this one play, that it's a little overstated, this retreat ability. As you can see, it's a 66% chance with no modifiers that they stay in place and basically evade combat. And you have one unit of irregulars canceling an attack from 3 hexes. I was thinking about if I would modify this row here, this number 4 row, I would make an actual retreat in which if a 4 is rolled, then the irregulars actually have to physically retreat from the hex. They survive and the attack gets canceled, but the attackers advance into the hex without having to fight. And that would make the player having the irregulars think twice in case they want to retreat all the time within the hex. So just a thought I had. I think this irregular retreat before combat table should be toned down a bit too. Otherwise, I enjoyed the game very much. The production is very nice. The map has large hexes. The pieces have colors. They're easily distinguishable. I like the way they look on video, actually. This is a good game video-wise. It televises very well. The colors are evocative. You have the Turks in red, the Bolsheviks in white with red print. And so I think the production quality is good. I like all the possibilities that this game has, with the possible entry into the war of the Allied forces, the Italians, French, and British, which the Turks can even attack them to gain a boost in their Grand National Assembly prestige level. And this never happened because here, when the Russians come into the war, the complexion of the game changes dramatically. But the entry of the Russians into the war is very improbable, but it happened in this game. And you see how it ended. The Russians have a pretty massive army. You can see they're all divisions, but their combat ratings are not high. And that's to take into account that this is an army that is running away from the Russian Civil War. So they probably didn't have a lot of fight in them, but because of their numbers and the timing when they come into the game, they made a huge difference here. So the Greeks had it pretty easy once the Russians were on their side. So this is the end of this playthrough after 7 turns. The War for Turkish Liberation. I want to thank my viewers that were watching each episode one at a time. They alerted me to some mistakes that I made that I was able to correct. That's always good. So I hope you enjoyed this playthrough series for the War for Turkish Liberation, and I will leave you with the song I composed for this game. And just to give it a name, the name of the song is the same as the name of this Turkish rice pudding, Kasandibi. So, this is Stuka Joe signing off for now. Thanks for watching and see you on the next one.